For the first time in a generation, Australian touring car competition would go racing under lights for the fourth round of the 1995 Australian Super Touring Championship from Calder Park in Melbourne. Welcome to GTR2 and the fourth round of the 1995 Australian Super Touring Championship from Calder Park in Melbourne. Under lights, as you can see. Calder Park in the early 90s became a real home of night racing with the Calder Park Thunderdome next door, putting in a great Musco lighting system around the Thunderdome the year before to enable the Auscars and NASCARs to race under lights, and that carried over to the road circuit for the Australian Super Touring Championship and ultimately in years following the V8s as well. But although we're racing at night, qualifying was held in the daylight, and we saw the first pole position of the year to Paul Morris in the Diet Coke BMW in a wet-dry session, putting half a second on the field to notch up his highest qualifying of the year. Some returnees to the series at Calder Park. Mark Seymour missed the last round in the BMW M3, while Melinda Price returns to competition for the first time since the Gold Coast. We managed to put the Hyundai into the top 10 with an on-the-limit lap, which will hopefully enable us to get amongst the leaders in the early stages and have a bit more action in this race compared to the two races at Symmons Plains. So let's go down to the dark grid and have a look at the qualifying positions. And as we said, Paul Morris in car number 2 on pole position in the BMW 318A, joined on the front row by Greg Murphy in the first of the Oryx Audi Quattros. Row number 2, the second, Brad Jones racing Audi Quattro. Brad Jones himself out of position number 3, joined by Jeff Brabham, the series leader in the number 83 BMW. Position 5, Graham Moore in the Opel Vectra. He's joined on the third row by Stephen Richards, the early season dominator in the Valvoline Alfa Romeo. Position 7, Jeff Allen in the Ford Mondeo, and he's joined by Tony Scott in the Volvo 850 Estate. Position 9, Steve Ellery in the BMW 318i. He's joined on row number 5 by us, Ross Duckman, car number 82, the Hyundai Elantra. From 11, Mark Adderton in the Peugeot 405. He's joined by Steve Hardman in the second of the Hyundais. Position 13, Paul Pickett in the BMW, joined on the 7th row by Melinda Price in the Toyota Corolla. From 15, Mark Seymour in the BMW M3, joined by the fellow car of Justin Matthews, car number 13. While the final row of the grid, Paul Nelson in the Faber-Castell BMW, and off the tail of the field, Bob Tweedy in the Ford Sierra. Alright, set to go, lights are on. Away in the dark at Calder Park. Bit of wheel spin, but not too bad of a start. We've got Ellery in front of us, we've got Mark Adderton in the Peugeot just to our right. So we funnel down to turn 1. Back off, we don't want to upend anyone. Back to second gear. Got just ahead of us is Paul Pickett. Up to the chicane. Adderton clambers into Steve Ellery. Dropped a spot. Try and see where we're going. Not a lot of lighting out the back here. Try to pick out braking for the chicane at the end of the straight. Right. Left. Around a glow weave corner now to end the lap. Tyres a little bit cold. Adderton had a bit of a bobble. Try and get the slipstream. Across the line. right in the toe of the Peugeot. Of course, not the Hyundai's forte. Oh, a bit of a stab at Adderton. First night race I've done in a long time. Ellery's gone wide. He's dropped a spot. Adderton gets through. Come through the chicane on the back straight. Oh, I thought about having a go, not quite. Of course, we got a lot more concentration to spot the apexes. Ellery a little bit sideways again as we come onto the main straight. Fifth gear. Track not very well lit, unfortunately, for GTR2. In real life it was a bit better lit. So we come down to turn 1. Stacking up with Stephen Richards just ahead of Adderton by the looks. So we're in the ballpark. See the competition, which is a little bit different to how it was down at Symmons Plains. Back to second gear. Chicane using a lot of curve, probably too much. Around glow weave corner onto the front straight. They've had a slow run onto the straight there. Just managing to stay with the pack. Trying to get in the slipstream. Down towards turn number 1. Tyres and brakes should be pretty much up to temperature. Ellery, the Shellgrave BMW. Oh, and there's Tony Scott's had an issue. That's held Ellery up. We go over Mount Jane. Ellery in the championship winning BMW of last year of Tony Longhurst. Come around onto the front straight. Calder had been off the national championship radar for a long time due to it had a sponsorship deal with the Quit anti-smoking campaign, which meant no cars could race at the track with cigarette advertising, which straight away meant it couldn't host national level race meetings because and Ellery's gone around. We'll get underneath. So we're up to 9th. Through the flick right and left on the back straight. Through the chicane. As I was saying, it meant that it couldn't host national level race meetings, Calder, because Australia still had tobacco advertising allowed. So rounds, for instance, of Australian Touring Car Championship and the like couldn't run here after 1988. But with tobacco advertising being banned in Australia from the start of 1996, meant that no longer was an issue. The track also, the sponsorship it had from the Quit anti-smoking campaign ended, and that opened the door for events to be held at Calder again. And that started to happen during 1995, starting with this round of the Australian Super Touring Championship, and then followed on the V8s of the Australian Touring Car Championship came back for 1996. There was also a non-championship round at the end of 1995 for the V8s. Come down to turn 1. Oof, nearly outbroke ourselves. So trying to keep the cars ahead inside. They're just sneaking away from us. Ellery and Tony Scott are behind us. Back to second gear. It really is. You've got to try and spot your apexes a bit better as we get a bit sideways. Around the glow weave corner onto the front straight. Sort of falling into no man's land again. Just becoming the norm for this season a bit, unfortunately. That's just the pace of the Hyundai, unfortunately. Chicane. Long storied history of Calder in terms of the configurations of track. This version was put in place in 1986 and it's generally stayed that way ever since. In the early 80s the track had a couple of changes. Oh, that's not good. Just missed our braking marker. Ellery slots through. We gave that up far too easily. Chicane. Been a while since we've done night driving in GTR2. I'd forgotten that we did the Suzuka 4 hours a while back. Just disappearing a little bit. Would be good if the lighting was a bit better on the track, but night racing's probably not what the people who made the track for this game were probably thinking of when they were converting tracks across. Hard. 10 laps down, so we're at a third distance already. Laps will go past quite quick. Back to second gear, the back comes around. Such an unstable car, this Hyundai. Of course, we're already halfway through the season at this round. Goes very quick. Front straight for the 11th time. It's a bit hard to sort of spot your apexes, and it's a really different art of driving in the night. Something which in motor racing in general these days, you still get it at Le Mans. But so many night races now, obviously for TV purposes, the tracks are so well lit that you don't even need headlights in some cases to get around them. A few notable exceptions. Obviously the Nürburgring, the early stages of the Bathurst 12 hour. Dropped 10 seconds off Ellery quite easy, but a long way in front of 11th place. As I said, there's sort of two distinct groups have formed in the championship. There's sort of the first 10, and then from there on back, and we're slotting into the middle of it. Jane. This mountain was created in the 1986 track extension. And where we come on to now, just behind us, there was a hairpin right joining from the main straight. So this is back onto sort of the original track. We come around and we turn right here. The pit lane entrance is straight ahead. But that's actually the old track. It rejoins to our left here. That was the run onto the main straight. I've had a retirement because the car ahead says it's only less than a second behind. So up to 9th, so someone's dropped out. Oh, we nearly dropped out. Oof. Mistake there. A lot of work to do for race 2. Over the chicane. No doubt part of it will be, I think if you're in the train with cars in front of you, it helps with your sight lines. It's where you really are in the dark. 14 seconds behind, I assume, Steve Ellery. We just dropped the rear tyre onto the grass. It spun the front around. Spun the rear around, sorry. We had to get on the accelerator to bring the front around. Thankfully with the setup, we do have race 2. straight. So half distance. 15 down, 15 to go. .30 seconds in front of 10th. Around turn 1. Something's happened up ahead because we've gained a little bit of time now on 8th place. Unless they're caught up in a bit of traffic. Back to second gear. The chicane under the bridge. 9 seconds now off 8th place, so perhaps caught in a bit of traffic because the field spread's quite large, so we will be lapping people in this race. Back to second gear. Around turn 1. You can see headlights, so closing in on some cars at least. Back to second gear. See the little curve, we're going to just nudge on here. The track used to go right and left again and then rejoin and run into the final corner. Very tight end of the lap. So it's only 5 seconds off. First gear, so we've got two cousins like Bob Tweedy in the Ford Sierra. Looks like a tight pack of them here. Oh, monster the curb. The inside of Tweedy. And Melinda Price in the Toyota is next up. Side up the inside. Justin Matthews in the BMW. Steve Hardman, our teammate, he'll let us go, which he does. So that's a real gaggle of cars. Mark Seymour ahead of us in the red BMW. Rejoining the championship, he cuts us off. Oh, no thought for letting the lapped car through. Beat him at the end of the straight. Paul Nelson next. Faber-Castell M3. Go through, and that's shows you how much time you lose lapping people, because now the gap's back out to 11.5 seconds. So much we can do there. Over top of the hill. What's the night racing like spectacle wise for you all watching at home? I'd love to know, because I'm sort of just replicating how it was in real life. But if it's not a good visual experience, I may as well run the races in the day at events like this. Does the atmosphere of a night race get conveyed across to you? Please let me know. It's one of those things, as I said earlier, tracks are so well lit these days for modern night racing that many argue that it's taken the driver's skill away of the night race, and I can tell you this is taking up a lot of concentration in the dark. Just trying to spot apexes, trying to spot braking markers. Nearly slipped off there. Round glow weave onto the front straight again. Line, so 9 laps to go. First gear, tip it in. Back straight. Basically drag strips in a chicane, this track. Of course the front straight actually is a drag strip. Still used to this day. And obviously you can see the centre line. Turn 1 again. I have to try and do something in the second half of this championship, because driving around by ourselves at the moment for the last Simmons Plains, and then for the first race here we're doing the same, so the Hyundai is just middle class, I guess, which doesn't help us. Across the line. For more 1995 Super Touring from around the world will be coming up on this channel. We've got of course in 1994 we did the German Touring Car Cup, and we will be doing that again for the 95 season. It's on the grass. Details on what we're driving and when that championship starts will be coming up in good time. Planning on another 95 playthrough with other championships. Obviously we did some of the BPR Endurance Series Enduros in 94. We'll do the same again this year, maybe even the full championship. We'll see. Just a chicane. We'll see how timing works, because they're longer races to do then. The BPR series. Generally they're all at least 4 hours. Takes up a lot of time, and then obviously you've got to put the video together and everything else. Back to second gear. Some other 95 stuff as well, and this is of course all in addition to some of the championships of the 80s we're doing as well, so a lot of variety on the channel, which I hope you enjoy. I'm going to do some rallying soon as well. As we're now getting lapped, we'll let the first car go through. It's one of the Diet Coke BMWs. Perhaps Paul Morris, he was on pole. And if it is, he's on his way to his first win of the season. Across the line, so he'll be on his 28th lap now, so 3 to go. So we're now a lap behind. Close racing. One thing we can say has happened in our 95 series so far. In terms of battles for the lead, it was runaway to Stephen Richards at both the Gold Coast races, runaways to the Audis in the wet Oran Park events. Some fairly tight racing at Symonds Plains for the leaders, not for us. But now back to quite a lead for the BMW. We've got some more headlights behind us, which presumably is second place. Go. So let's put our thinking caps on in the gap between race 1 and race 2. Just can't seem to get any more speed out of this car. But we'll keep trying. Side on the straight, I think. The curve on the front straight. Hyundai, not the quickest car, so I'd say this thing will round us up. Blue flag. Another Diet Coke, so it's a Diet Coke 1-2 for the BMW team. We're on the last lap now, I'm pretty sure, so we're going to come through 9th place, at least it's points. Straight. flags out, so it's a Diet Coke 1-2. We're going to finish 9th. Well, the result's fine. We made 2 or 3 little errors, but it wasn't an enthralling battle that we want, but there's always next race. So let's go check the results from the first night race in the Australian 2-litre Super Touring Championship history. Calder Park Race 1. Who won? So the first Australian Super Touring Championship race in the dark ends with a fairly pedestrian affair, for us anyway, but at the front of the field it was a dominant win to BMW, and Paul Morris in particular getting his first win of the season, converting the pole position into a runaway win by 6 seconds from Jeff Brabham. Brad Jones rounding out the podium in the Oryx Audi Quattro. 4th, Jeff Allen in the Ford Mondeo. Graham Moore finishes 5th in the Opel, just ahead of Stephen Ellery in 6th. 7th was Mark Adderton in the Peugeot. Stephen Richards dropped to 8th in the Alpha. We finished 9th, 1 lap off the leaders, while in 10th place was Paul Pickett, getting the final point ahead of Paul Nelson and Mark Seymour. That leaves the point standings after 7 of the 16 races. Jeff Brabham now holds a 12-point lead over Brad Jones. Paul Morris has vaulted up into 3rd, 1 point ahead of Stephen Richards. 5th place Greg Murphy in the second Audi, while Jeff Allen's broken into the top 6 in the Ford Mondeo. So that's where we'll leave race number 1. Race number 2, the halfway point of the season, coming up shortly. It'll be under lights also at Calder, and we'll see if Paul Morris can repeat his race 1 win, and can we get a bit higher than 9th place that we got in the opening race. Bye for now, and we'll see you next time.